travelers' accounts. There are multiple travelers' accounts, like Dion Chrysostom. He is aware of the Mahabharata, which I will describe later in this seminar. Periples of the Erythraean Sea is a anonymous traveler's document, which refers to Dwarka. Greek writer Ptolemy is aware of Mathura and Indraprastha. Greek traveler Megasthenes is aware of Mathura and Krishna worship. Chinese traveler Fahian and Yuan Chuang is aware of Mathura. And very interestingly, Akbar's court poet, he says that this particular palace which you see right now, this location which you see right now, this is the place where Maharaja Yudhishthir used to have his palace 4,500 odd years back. So even the Muslims, Buddhists, Jains, Tamils, Greeks, who not, everybody has accepted that this is an historical event happened in the distant past. Who started this mythology narrative? The British. When the British came inside India, they said, oh, no, how this can be history? This is mythology. We cannot agree that this is history. This is mythology. So this mythology narrative has been started for the first time by the British. Otherwise, anyone who is there in history in the past never spewed venom against our history, never said that this is mythology, this is imaginary. That never happened before. Even the Buddhists and Jains, who are apparently antagonistic in some ways to Sanatana Dharma during that period, they also accepted Mahabharata as historical, Krishna as historical, Pandavas as historical. So this mythology narrative for the first time has been started by the British during the British colonial period. So this reference is very interesting. This is by Dion Chrysostom. Dion Chrysostom is a Greek writer, 2,000-year-old approximately Greek writer. So he says that the Indians possessed an Iliad of 1 lakh verses. The Indians possessed an Iliad of 1 lakh verses. Now, just to give you a background, Mahabharata is an Indian epic or an Indian Mahakavya. Similarly, the Iliad is a Greek epic. A Greek epic, or probably, I don't know if it's right to call that as Mahakavya, but let's say for argument's sake, it's a Greek Mahakavya. Okay, so Greeks had this literature, epic called as Iliad. Indians are having an epic or a Mahakavya called as a Mahabharata. Okay, so when Dion is seeing or listening to or getting to know about the Mahabharata, he can always say that the Indians had an epic called as Mahabharata. But instead, he says Indians had an Iliad called the Mahabharata. Because for him, Iliad means an epic means an Iliad. So he has interchangeably used the word epic he has interchangeably used the word Iliad instead of epic. He should have said that the Indians had an epic of 1 lakh verses. But instead, he has used the word Indians had an Iliad of 1 lakh verses. Why so? Because that is a colloquial way of saying a holy book means Bhagavad Gita means holy book. In other words, epic means Iliad means epic. Whereas if an Indian goes abroad, he will say, holy book means Gita means holy book. So they are interchangeable in that way. Okay, the terms were interchangeable. That is why he has said that the Indians had an Iliad of 1 lakh verses. Otherwise, there is no historical proof of Iliad being 1 lakh verses. There is no proof. No historical proof that there was Iliad of 1 lakh verses. It's approximately 17,000 verses only. And we don't find historical or archaeological or literature any sort of proof that Iliad was 1 lakh verses. So, all that clearly establishes that this is a clear reference to the Mahabharata book itself. So, the Greeks were aware of the Mahabharata text, right? And the Vedic period, Ashwalayana Grihasutra is aware of the Mahabharata text, right? And then the later period, we have the Buddhists. Buddhists were a little before. Buddhists were aware, the Jains are aware, and the Muslims are aware. Everybody is aware of a text named the Mahabharata, historically speaking, for a really long period of time, right? So it's the historical imprint of this text has been seen throughout history. And Mahabharata is the only Mahakavya epic which is 1 lakh verses. When you combine the 18 Parvas and the Harivamsha, which is a Khila, which is an appendix, it is 1 lakh verses. So now coming to the next topic, which is the Janapada. Now you see these Janapadas, all of you who have studied history to some extent, you will know that there were these 16 Mahajanapadas. 16 Mahajanapadas. This is mentioned in the book named as Anguttara Nikaya. There is this famous book called as Anguttara Nikaya, which refers to the 16 important kingdoms of the Buddhist period. As you can see here, Kashi, Koshala, Anga, Magadha, Vajji, Malla, Chedi, Vatsa, Kuru, Panchala, Matsya, Shursen, Ashaka, Avanti, Gandhar, Kamboj. Among these 16 Janapadas, most of them have already been mentioned in either the Veda or the Mahabharata. So they already have a historical imprint much before the beginning of the Buddhist literatures. In other words, what I'm saying is that many of these Janapadas were converting to Buddhism. Their kings were being impacted by the Buddhist teachings. The Buddha is going there, speaking to certain kings. Like we find in the Jatakas that the Buddha is going to the Kuru region, he's going to Indapatta, it's obviously Indraprastha, right? He's going there to speak to the king there, and he's trying to impact them and trying to bring them to Buddhism, right? That we find in the Buddhist texts. So when we did an analysis of the antiquity of these kingdoms, we find that these kingdoms already were existing, and their history is clearly mentioned in the Mahabharata, right? So when you place the Mahabharata historically in terms of the Janapadas, you find that they are after the Vedic period and before the Buddhist period. Okay, of course, an explanation of this complete seminar would be required, but just to give you an idea, there are some Janapadas which are mentioned in the Vedic period. They're also mentioned in the Mahabharata period. They are not mentioned in the Buddhist period. In other words, they don't exist during the Buddhist period. They have lost their existence. Some Janapadas are active during the Mahabharata period and the Buddhist period, but they are not mentioned in the Vedic literature. Or in other words, they were starting to have their existence during the Mahabharata period. So in that way, you will find how which of these Janapadas started gaining existence or got destroyed, right? So the Janapada's creation and destruction also gives a very precise idea that the Mahabharata cannot be post-Buddhist. No way the Mahabharata can be post-Buddhist, and no way the Mahabharata can be pre-Vedic. It is post-Vedic and pre-Buddhist. So the Janapada research clearly establishes that the Mahabharata is post-Vedic and pre-Buddhist.